Hello student, good day to all of you. Today we are going to study Secretarial Practice Subject chapter number 4, Issue of Debenture. In the last lecture we completed issue of shares. So let us start with issue of debentures. So companies prefer issuing debentures to raise funds as they can be repaid after a long period. So debenture is an acknowledgement of debt. It is a part of loan which can be repaid after a particular period of time. At the initial stage, company issue shares, and whenever there is a need for the purpose of expansion or growth or diversification, there is a raise of funds by the way of issue of debentures. So there are some regulations governing issue of debentures. A company issuing debentures has to comply with the provisions of the Companies Act 2013, Companies Share Capital and Debentures Rules 2014, RBI guidelines and SEBI's various regulations. So depending upon the type of debenture, company has to fulfill the following provisions or regulations. It is depend upon the type of debenture, which type will be issued by the companies. There is a first column act or regulations or guidelines, and second one provisions regarding Companies Act 2013 section 71. It contains provisions for issue of debentures. Second one, Companies Share Capital and Debentures Rules 2014, Rule 18, Sub Rule 18 contains provision for issue of secured debentures. यामध्ये सिक्युअर डिबेंचर्ससाठी काय दिलेले प्रोविजन्स दिलेले. थर्ड वन सेबी इश्यू अँड लिस्टिंग ऑफ डेप्ट सिक्युरिटीज रेग्युलेशन्स 2008. यामध्ये दिलेले कवर्स प्रोविजन्स फॉर issue and listing of debentures which are not convertible. Not convertible means it cannot be converted into equity shares, either into wholly or partly into equity shares. It is applicable if debentures are issued through public offer, private placement and for listed debentures. As per these provisions, company has to follow disclosure requirements as applicable to public issue of equity shares. Next one, SEBI issue of capital and disclosure requirement regulations 2009. Provisions for issue of debentures and listing of debentures that are convertible either partially, fully or optionally into listed or unlisted equity shares. So these provisions regarding convertible debentures into equity shares. As per these provisions, a company has to follow the same disclosure norms as applicable to equity shares. जसं इक्विटी शेअर्सला असणारे प्रोविजन्स इश्यू करताना सेम इथे पण असणार. नेक्स्ट, provisions which a listed company issuing non-convertible debentures, perpetual debt instruments, etc. has to fulfill. The provisions relate to the various listing conditions which a company has to comply with. Last one, RBI guidelines meant for banks which raise capital by issuing non-equity instruments. Non-equity instruments जे इश्यू करणारे बँक्स, ज्या बँक्स इश्यू करणार आहेत त्यांच्यासाठी इथे काय आहेत, RBIने गाईडलाईन्स प्रोव्हाइड केलेल्या आहेत. सो कंपनी इश्यूज secured as well as unsecured debentures. Secured debentures are those debentures against which property will be charged, and unsecured property will not be charged. So mostly unsecured debentures cannot be issued. It can issue debenture can issue non-convertible debentures or debentures which can be converted fully or partly into equity shares. आपण टाइप्स बघितले डिबेंचर्सचे. त्याच्यामध्ये नॉन कन्व्हर्टिबल पण होतं, कन्व्हर्टिबल होतं. नॉन कन्व्हर्टिबल कॅनॉट बी कन्वर्टेड इंटू इक्विटी शेअर्स and convertible debentures are converted into equity shares. All debentures are redeemable, that is have to be repaid. सगळे डिबेंचर्स रेडीमेबल असतात. इरेडीमेबल डिबेंचर्स इश्यू केले जात नाहीत. Company can issue debentures to its members or make a public offer or offer it even through private placement. Company can also list its debentures authority कोणती असणार इश्यू करण्यासाठी डिबेंचर्स बोर्ड ऑफ डायरेक्टर्स. However, the board can use their borrowing powers only up to the limit permitted by the articles of association. If in case the board wants to increase its borrowing powers, they have to get the approval of shareholders in a general meeting through a special resolution. आता आर्टिकल्स ऑफ असोसिएशन मध्ये जेवढं लिमिट दिले बॉरोइंगचं तेवढंच कंपनी बॉरो करू शकते. आणि जर त्याच्यापेक्षा जास्त बॉरो करायचं आहे तर काय पास करायचं आहे, स्पेशल रिझोल्युशन इन द जनरल मीटिंग बाय द शेअर होल्डर. So there are certain provisions for the issue of debentures as per first one Companies Act 2013. त्याच्यामध्ये 3 प्रोव्हिजन्स आहेत. त्याच्यामधलं फर्स्ट provisions for issue of debentures as per Companies Act 2013. So first is no voting rights. So every debenture holders of the company are the creditors of the company. They cannot enjoy voting rights like shareholders. A company cannot issue debentures with voting rights. Debentures holders are creditors of the company and so they do not have any voting rights except in matters affecting them. फक्त त्यांचं जे असणारे not have voting rights because they are the creditors of the company. Second one, types of debentures. We see types of debentures. A company can issue secured or unsecured debentures and fully or partly convertible debentures or non-convertible debentures. To issue convertible debentures, a special resolution has to be passed in the general meeting. All debentures are redeemable in nature. Irredeemable debentures cannot be issued by the company. Redeemable debentures means it can be redeemable or repaid after a particular period of time. सगळे डिबेंचर्स कोणत्या टाईपचे असणार आहेत, तर रेडीमेबल असणार आहेत. आणि जर कन्वर्टेड झाले तर ते काय होणार आहेत, कशामध्ये कन्वर्ट होणार आहे, इक्विटी शेअर्समध्ये. थर्ड वन, पेमेंट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट अँड रिडम्पशन. डिबेंचर्सवरती काय पेड केलं पाहिजे, इंटरेस्ट, बिकॉज इट इज अ पार्ट ऑफ लोन. लोनवरती आपण इंटरेस्ट पेड करतो. बॉरो जे पण करतो आपण आउटसाइडर्सकडून त्याच्यावरती इंटरेस्ट पेड करतो. अ कंपनी शॅल रिडीम द डिबेंचर्स अँड पे इंटरेस्ट ॲज पर द टर्म्स अँड कंडिशन्स ऑफ देअर इश्यू. जसं डिबेंचर सर्टिफिकेटवरती मेन्शन केलेलं आहे, जेवढं इंटरेस्ट असणार आहे तेवढंच पे करायचं आहे. आणि कधी रिडम्पशन आहे अकॉर्डिंग टू दॅट तसं रिडम्पशन करायचं आहे. फोर्थ वन, डिबेंचर सर्टिफिकेट. एव्हरी डिबेंचर होल्डर्स कॅन गेट डिबेंचर सर्टिफिकेट फॉर द debenture issued by the company. Company has to issue debenture certificate to the debenture holders within 6 months of allotment of debentures. Next, create debenture redemption reserve. Company has to create a debenture redemption reserve account out of profits of the company available for payment of dividend. This money can be used only for redemption of debentures. So, debenture redemption reserve can be used for the purpose of redemption of debentures as per Companies Share Capital and Debentures Amendment Rules 2019. MCA has removed debenture redemption reserve requirement for listed companies, NBFCs, and housing finance companies. Next one, appointment of debenture trustees. For the purpose of issue of debentures, there will be appointment of debenture. Company has to appoint one or more debenture trustees. Debenture trustees protect the interest of the debenture holders. If the company fails to repay the amount of debenture to the debenture holder, then trustees protect the interest of the debenture holders. Company has to appoint trustees by entering into a contract with them called as debenture trust deed. Next, debenture trustees can approach NCLT. Debenture trustees have to redress the grievances of debenture holders. If the company defaults in repaying the principal amount on maturity or defaults in paying interest thereon, the debenture trustees can approach the National Company Law Tribunal for redressal. NCLT can direct a defaulting company to repay the principal amount or interest. If the company fails to pay the principal amount and interest to the debenture holders, then National Company Law Tribunal advise the company to pay such amount to the debenture holders. Next, impose restrictions. When the debenture trustee is of the opinion that the assets of the company are insufficient or likely to become insufficient to redeem the principal amount of debentures, it may approach the NCLT. NCLT can order a company to restrict incurring further liabilities so as to protect the interest of the debenture act. If the company fails to comply with any provisions of the Act, then the company and its officers shall be liable to pay fine or imprisonment or both as prescribed in the Act. The company ने पेड केलं नाही कोणतीही अमाऊंट डिबेंचर्सची डिबेंचर होल्डरची प्रिन्सिपल और इंटरेस्ट देन कंपनी and its officers shall be liable to pay fine पेनल्टी असेल ती पेड करावी लागेल किंवा त्यांना काय होणार आहे इम्प्रिझनमेंट म्हणजेच काय तुरुंगवास जे दोघांपैकी जे योग्य असेल ते होणार आहे. सो टुडे वी स्टडीड regulations and provisions for issues of debentures. Thank you.